guys, I'm starting yet another kind of mini series for my channel. We've done experiments, what else have we done? I don't even know. I lose track, but we're gonna start a series where we talk about lesser known, more rare mental illnesses slash disorders slash syndromes, because some of the things aren't necessarily their own disorder diagnosis. They sometimes can be syndromes. We're not really going to go over those ones today, but we are going to go over 3 different mental illnesses that I don't think it gets a lot of awareness in society and in general, and I feel like we should talk about it, and it's just to better educate all of us about, you know, more mental illnesses that aren't necessarily depression, anxiety, you know, because we get a lot of awareness about that, which is great. There could be more, definitely, but I think we should talk about some other ones that aren't as known, and so we can learn more about them. Now, I would love if any of you have any of these illnesses or something that's a little bit more rare or less common. If you would share your experiences down in the comments, I would really, really appreciate it. If not, that's totally fine. That is okay. Also, I just want to point out that this topic was chosen by my Patreon fam, so thank you so much. If you don't know, I have a Patreon now. I have a link to it down below, so if you want to support me beyond just subscribing, feel free to do so, no pressure at all. The first one we're going to talk about actually seems like it's more common than not, but it's actually pretty rare. It's called misophonia, which is also called selective sound sensitivity syndrome. It's basically when people are not necessarily afraid of sounds, but it really just drives them up the wall when they hear sounds. ASMR is a no-go for these people. There's less than 200,000 cases per year in the US, but I know multiple people who get really annoyed by sounds, and maybe not to the point of a diagnosis of misophonia, but very much annoyed. Usually they have a very strong reaction to certain sounds, which is also led by anxiety, stress, anger, disgust, and it can lead to actual fears of those sounds, and they will go out of their way to avoid certain sounds. Say it's people chewing. They're probably not going to eat at a restaurant because they're afraid that they're going to hear people chewing with their mouth open, and that's going to drive them into an anxiety attack or an anger filled like rage. Sometimes there are cases where it's been reported that they feel so strongly about this, like their reaction is so strong that they have the urge to kill what is making the sound or kill themselves. This usually starts between the ages of 9 and 13 and is more common in females for whatever reason. There is a theory behind why certain mental illnesses are more common in females, and that is just the simple fact that women are more likely to admit to having mental illnesses or experiencing, you know, those kind of symptoms, whereas men are conditioned by society to not feel that way, so they will be less likely to kind of claim that identity. But that's a whole another video for another day. This disorder is really hard to diagnose because studies have shown that it's more something to do with the brain. They actually don't really know what causes misophonia, but it has more to do with mental problems than it does the ears or the ear canal. It's not necessarily how the sounds are hitting their ears. It's mostly in their brain. This is also sometimes misdiagnosed as OCD or anxiety. The next one we're going to talk about is pica eating disorder. So we know about the most common eating disorders, which I get asked a lot to do a video on eating disorders, and for some reason that one feels uncomfortable for me to do a video on, even from an educational standpoint, because something like depression and anxiety I have experience in, and I don't technically have experience in eating disorders, so it wouldn't feel right for me to do a whole video dedicated to it. Not to mention it's very triggering for a lot of people because a lot of people suffer from eating disorders. We're not here to talk about that today. I just wanted to address that because I do get asked so much to do videos about eating disorders. Anyway, with pica, it's basically the consumption of foods, or not foods, non-food items or things that have no nutritional value. For example, some popular items that are eaten are paper, soap, hair, chalk, dirt, or even ice is considered in the pica eating disorder, and not so much like, you know, you're just chewing on some ice, I don't know, but like compulsively craving and eating ice. Now, in order to be diagnosed with pica eating disorder, the behavior has to be strange culturally and socially. For example, some cultures eat clay, and that's like the norm, so that would not be considered pica. Pica would be something that's weird in the culture or in society. And it has to be developmentally inappropriate, so children under the age of 2 are not going to be diagnosed usually with pica because they're constantly putting things in their mouth, which can lead to consumption, so that does not also equal pica by any means. Now, this disorder can be associated with things such as autism spectrum disorder, pregnancy, schizophrenia, trichotillomania, and dermatillomania. So they can either be comorbid with some of the mental illnesses or developmental issues, or just medical conditions such as pregnancy. And with pregnancy, you won't necessarily be diagnosed with pica if you're just having a craving. You have to actually perform the behavior and the compulsion to eat that item in order to be diagnosed. Obviously, this has a very negative effect on the body if you're constantly eating things that are not meant to be eaten. So some side effects can be holes in the intestines from where the items have built up and had, punctured their way out essentially of the intestines. Heavy metal poisoning, depending on what the item is that they're craving, can also happen. There isn't a lot of research on pica actually and what is the actual cause of it. Some cases there have been vitamin deficiencies or mineral deficiencies, and then that causes them to crave like dirt because there's minerals in the dirt. But regardless, other than that, it's not really well known as to what causes it. The last one we're going to talk about today, I have trouble pronouncing, but we're going to try. Are you ready? Low Mania. This is basically when the person has crippling indecisiveness. They cannot for the life of them make a decision. Now, it's a lot deeper than that. It's not just like, oh, do you want Taco Bell or McDonald's? It's not that shallow or surface level. It's usually a lot deeper. It can be comorbid with depression, anxiety, stress, things like that. People who have this often are insecure, they don't like to try new things, and they have low confidence when it comes to their own abilities. And this could be so debilitating to the point where they feel like they cannot live alone. Some other common symptoms are being afraid of being abandoned or being alone. They usually take a very passive role in a relationship and are very upset when they're criticized. And to me, this kind of can be, I feel like this is my own speculation here, not, research or anything. It sounds to me like it could be commonly misdiagnosed as possibly borderline. Not gonna say that they go hand in hand, but it kind of sounds like that. The fear of being alone and just being abandoned is also a common symptom in borderline personality disorder. So the cause for this is believed to be either biological or developmental. And what's interesting is that there's a theory that if you have very strict parents, you're more likely to develop Low Mania. So those are the 3 disorders that we're going to talk about today that are less common, probably more rare. If you've taken psychology or if you're interested in the human brain at all, you might have heard of these, of course. I'm not trying to come at you with, I bet you've never heard of these, because we want people to hear of these. We want people to know about other mental illnesses besides the big, ones that we hear about all the time, which obviously we hear about all the time because they're more common. But it's also important to look at more rare ones and be more educated about a full spectrum of mental illnesses as well. Like I said in the beginning, if you have any experience with any of these disorders or something else, please leave your experience in the comments if you're comfortable doing so. I'd love to hear some more requests, and make sure to vote on the polls on Patreon if you want. Anyway, it's kind of a quick video, but I hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.